Hello and good evening. It is the 2nd of December, if you can believe it. I cannot. So much going on. I hope you're well. I hope you're healthy and well. I feel a bit emotional, but strongly compelled to have a conversation about LGBTQIA plus allyship, which is something that as much as I feel strongly about it, am not as active as I could be. And I suppose I'm going to use this platform to change that, recognizing that it's not the same as having these hard conversations in person with someone. I understand that. What I'm hoping to do, especially with this video today, ideally to help people have those conversations, and be heard and to hear. Today we have found out, and I'm totally going to start crying at some point, so just so you're aware. It's in the world now that Ellen Page identifies as trans and would prefer to be called Elliot and go by he, him pronouns. And the conversations I kept seeing on Facebook is what sparked my desire to have this conversation with you. Because one thing that I have felt really strongly about is that we don't know how to have the conversation. And what I see is a lot of hostility towards people asking questions. And that's not going to get us anywhere. So the first thing I need to say, which is going to be hard to hear, but I think it's true, is that allyship does not go one way. And it's not just for or in defense of the LGBTQIA community. It is also for and in allyship with those who are learning, those who have questions. And remember, please, that I'm never suggesting that you put up with abuse, bullying, none of it. But if you find yourself in a position with someone who's willing to have the conversation, and I think that's a key point for now, something that needs to be remembered, I think, is that along with all of the things that are going on right now, the dismantlement of the binary paradigm as we have all been taught it and brought up in and raised in, it's dissolving, and that's good that it's dissolving, but not everybody is down. Not everybody even understands that that's what's happening. Not everyone who doesn't understand it, that that's what's happening, understands that the binary is not coming back. So one thing to remember and possibly use as a starting point with someone is to recognize that everything has always been here. It has never been the only thing that existed was the binary. And now all of a sudden there's all this non-binary construct happening. What the fuck are these people doing? What the fuck these people are doing is taking their rightful place in the world and no longer allowing the binary construct to override who they are as people. The problem that the binary has presented is the shoving down and the stuffing down of who people really are. So if we can imagine, what would it have been like, or what will it be like when or if there never was that construct? There was never this idea that you're born, you have something between your legs that defines what you are. That's it. And that whatever's between your legs, and then in continuity with who you love, that means you're a certain kind of person. What if, and here's the thing, it's always been like this, we've just had these these notions drummeled, that's the word that's in my head, I don't know if that's right, pummeled into our heads that one's normal, one's abnormal. None of that's true. So if you can bring a person to a place of at least comprehending that what is true is that all things are true and all things are possible, which means a person who was born with a vagina can also have the male brain, the male construct, or the construct of the male brain. And it will, as a result, most likely, result in dysphoria, which leads them to the journey down the path of recognizing and utilizing the terminology that works around trans. Now, you should know, and this is fairly new to me too, trans does not necessarily just lie with male to female, female to male. It doesn't necessarily mean you transition. So if you get my meaning, if I'm telling you that I'm trans, but I have no intention of undergoing surgery, that doesn't diminish the statement. So while it's a beautiful thing to comprehend or even take in this idea of all this beautiful gender freedom, sexual freedom, sex freedom, identity freedom, if you will. The work that needs to be done in order for that to be not such a struggle and such a fight is having the conversations while also living the truth. Being the truth. Being radically honest with yourself about who and what you are. That does not necessarily mean that you have to come out. I see why people do. But I don't think it's healthy to imply that everything has to go a particular way, since that's what we're trying to break away from, right? And it's all a learning process. We don't know. It's all happening right now. So it's beautiful and it's messy and it's glorious and it's hard. And people are hateful, and they're not willing to see the beauty. But keep in mind, please, they're afraid. And this is where the allyship comes in, is for those who are willing to take it on, who believe that they can hold this space. It's for both sides. It's saying, hey, I recognize that you don't understand what's going on right now. Do you want to understand? Or do you want to hear what's happening? What questions do you have? How can I help you come to a greater understanding of what is happening right now? Because we are a society and a culture that isn't great about that. And again, we're in a place where, in a position where we can really just create this beautiful world that we want, but we have to participate in it as well. So it means being, I'm going to keep throwing out the term radical honesty because I've just had a kind of a breakthrough with myself about what that means. Just real quickly, I was under the impression that it meant being radically honest with other people. And if I understand it correctly now, it's radically honest with yourself. So in the moment, catching any propensity towards projection, throwing your unhealed nonsense at people. Not that it's nonsense, but the act of thrusting your unhealed nonsense onto people is kind of nonsense, and making it their problem. It's actually being able to, in the moment, say, hey, I'm feeling confronted by what's happening right now. Can we stop for a second? Um, let me push this aside so I can hear you. Let me remove this obstacle for now. I will deal with this later. I just need to acknowledge it right now. I need to honor it. But if that's not part of what you're talking about, you don't have to like thrust it at someone. The idea of just being in the moment, present in the moment at all times, and able to redirect. Being able to embrace who you are. It's so very difficult because we've been given so much bullshit. And everybody wants to be who they are. Who they truly are. Not the way of being that implies how do I say it? I think it's just that we all want to be who we are. We all want to live what we love. I would posit that we all feel oppressed on some level. All things are true. So the idea, for instance, that you can have had a great childhood, but your parents still could have done some shit to fuck you up. For instance. Duality, not binary. So while we have all of this stuff and all of this, I'm going to call it like a clearing tornado of constructs is happening right now. And for the people who just aren't even remotely capable, they have zero bandwidth for it. And so their approach is to attack. Their approach is to ask, well, maybe ask questions in a way that you would, it would be fair to say, I'm receiving you as being sarcastic or passive aggressive or caustic. Is that your goal? Because people have right to the questions. How are they going to find out if people don't teach them? If the allies aren't educators, who's going to teach them? And yes, can they get on Google? Sure, but are they going to? It's such a it's a start. I'm not saying don't do it. Cause that's just one of the things I kept saying. You know, you can Google it. Yeah, well, they maybe not know what to Google. They may not. They don't understand. One person was giving an individual who asked a question about why Elliot Page felt the need to present it to the world. And honestly, it could have just read kind of snarky. It was a valid the question was valid. I don't understand why they feel the need to present it to the world. It's a fair question. It's not necessarily coming from a place of hate, but the responses were hateful, predominantly. Oh, and I think they prefaced it with like, maybe it's my age, but someone's like, yeah, it's your age. Hey, guess what? There's a lot of people of a lot of ages who know a lot of things, but also need to learn a lot of things. So regardless of your age, you can be an educator. And you can practice not responding like that. Because you have to remember, it is not going to move anything forward. I mean, you guys think about it. If all the allies are just assholes to everyone who asks questions, It's not going to work. It's not going to work. So I would encourage you, myself included, to come up with maybe some stock answers or some stock questions to have on hand, so when you find yourself online in a scenario or even real life, you have a starting point that you're willing to start with. Let's face facts. So you ask somebody if they want to have the conversation and they say no, which is their right. Should you want to have this conversation later, I would love to talk to you. Planting seeds. We can't change everybody's mind immediately in any case about anything. It's all seed planting. So what can we do? We remember that everybody wants to be who they are. Everyone on some level has felt oppressed in some way and has been, for the most part, have issues that they need to work through before that can happen. If the word oppressed doesn't work for you, another word, but it's been going on. Pardon me for a second. Here's the thing also, I can hear, just hear it. Sorry, I didn't mean to roll my eyes. Sometimes generic statements are made, and people will take that generic statement as an affront to their own personal situation. I encourage you to recognize that that's not always the case. Sometimes a generic statement is very simply that, it's a generic statement. Because bad news, not everything is about you. We are all very up. I mean, I've said it like every video. We're all up in our our head shoved up our ass, you know, with self-righteous indignation. And oh, I can't stop saying it, but it's just so true. I can't wait for it to not be there. I really can't wait for it to not be there. I can't wait for us to not be afraid to have the conversations. Because that's all that's really being stirred up is more fear around conversations, which we already had. More of that same is unnecessary. How do you wish to contribute to the release of the binary? How do you celebrate it? How do you want to practice being radically honest with yourself about you, what you want to be, what you are, what you love? I started Wishcraft by Barbara Sher, which is very much the idea of who you were when you were 5 is who you are. Who you are. And you think about all the things that happened that may have stopped that from flourishing or thriving. That is what's true. And we've all been steamrolled. So how can we get grounded, get clarity, I don't really have another word. Get grounded, get clarity, get clear. Get in the center of the storm, get in the eye of the storm so you can see it for what it is. And get with who you are. wonder, once you get there, if you'll feel like telling people, if you'll feel like sharing it with people. I figured out who I am. I have figured out what I am. I now understand the journey as it played out. I wish to celebrate that. I wish to share that. I want that for everyone. Because that's what feels true to me. And it has just never seemed more, I know it seems insane, but it's never seemed more possible to me. I don't know if it's having so much time off of work, so much free time for Dark Night of the Soul. I'm sure you feel me on that level. But we've moved through a lot. We have some more work to do. I encourage you to be gentle with yourself and with everyone else. And encourage them to find the willingness to be radically honest with themselves about who they are. And to celebrate it. So I celebrate you. Wherever you're at, wherever you're at, wherever you're at. And I honor your process. And I hope you have things to celebrate. All right, thanks for letting me talk. I'll see you soon. Bye.